Welcome back, everyone. It has been a long time since I've done a breakdown of a headphone sound signature. And so I thought it would be a good idea to get back into that. We are going to test the Rane Commercial RH2. And we're going to start off with the bass response. And if you remember, it's been a long time, I know, or if you're a new subscriber, the way I do it is I have a pair of headphones that I test, and one of the test parameters is that I go through the bass, mids, and treble response. We talk about soundstage, and then we do comparisons with other headphones. And the reason we do this is so that if you have a particular pair of headphones that you're interested in, and you have another pair of headphones that you're interested in, you may not be able to find a comparison of those two particular headphones. But if you have an idea of what one of them probably sounds like, if somebody breaks down some of the sound signature for you, then you at least have somewhere to start off from. And so that's why I do these sorts of tests. So back to the RH2. This is, I think, about a $40 or $50 pair of headphones. This particular pair was sent to me by a subscriber, very generous, to review, and then it'll get sent back. And the RH2 tested is going to be about the bass. We have 3 songs. We have Mountains, Post Malone, and Moons by MB. And I'm going to use Amazon Music HD. I've got everything plugged in. The DAC amp that we're using today is the RME 80i2 DAC. The current volume is negative 36 decibels, which is plenty. All right, so let's start off with Mountains. Here we go. Now, at the very beginning of Mountains, there is a sub-bass rumble that is supposed to be prevalent probably around 2 seconds into the song. And at negative 36, you can definitely hear that sub-bass. It's very neat. It's not muddy. It doesn't sound bloated. It's not interacting with the mid-bass. It's just all the way at the bottom. It's like at the bottom layer. And at negative 36, it's fine volume. You can easily hear all the instruments at this point. You hear the sub-bass. You hear the click-clack, whatever the hell that instrument is. You have a tick-tock, tick-tock that's easily audible, and that's kind of mimicking, time passing. I'm going to increase the volume from negative 36. So let's go to negative 30. Okay, we're at negative 30. And at negative 30, that reverberation of the bass picks up a little bit. The headphone's getting a little bit more power. And so instead of going boom, 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 boom at negative 36, now at negative 30 decibels, it goes boom, boom, boom. So there's slightly longer reverberation in the sub bass, but it's not interacting. It's not muddy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the middle of the song where there is a crescendo of all the instruments playing and the piano, not the piano, but the organ is playing. So let's skip to the middle here. I'm going to increase the volume from negative 30 to negative 25. And you could hear that boom, but it's not shattering, it's not shaking the headphone. The ear cups aren't moving. The diaphragm doesn't sound like it's distorting. The headphones don't sound as if they are melding the frequencies. So when the organ plays, the organ is really the primary instrument in the song. When the organ plays at its crescendo, some headphones, what they do is when they are bass heavy, when they emphasize sub-bass, mid-bass, you get a little bit of distortion. And the more bass-heavy a particular pair of headphones is, the more muddy this portion of this song is going to be. And instead of having a boom, that kind of organ sound effect, that rumble, you get distortion and the other instruments get overpowered and it becomes muddy and you really can't pick apart the other instruments in the mix. Not so with the RH2. Let's keep playing. That rumbling effect sounds like thunder, but you can still hear the other instruments. There's a good separation between the bass and the mids. The treble is not harsh. It's not peaky. There's no distortion. Let's increase the volume again to negative 22. And the more power put in, you can still hear that rumble. And I'm looking at the RME's readout here. We've got 20 hertz, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60. I mean, the bass, sub-bass is just off the scale. I mean, that's really the emphasis. And yet, I can still hear the mids. The treble emphasis is not quite there, and the reader on the RME shows exactly why. There's not a whole lot of treble emphasis in this song. Just a little bit rolled off. So the RH2 doesn't have the best separation between bass, mids, treble. There is indeed a melding of all three tonalities. But the big takeaway for me is that the bass is really well controlled so that it doesn't become overwhelming with the rest of the frequency range. And I'm looking at, like I said, I'm looking at the RME's readout, and I see the sub bass being pronounced here. You're going from, I think it goes down to about -20, -15, not -15, but 15, 20 hertz. And I can see the bar going all the way up to -10 decibels in 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 hertz region. And everything else from 60 hertz onward is below -10, so -20, -30 decibels. And so you can see that there is in fact a pronounced bass emphasis in the song, but these particular headphones don't take that bass emphasis that's created in the song and exaggerate it even more. Headphones that exaggerate it even more are the type that you should try to avoid for songs that have such huge amount of bass, sub-bass mixed in on purpose. All right, so that's Mountains. Now let's go to Post Malone. We're still at -20. I'm going to bring that, -22, I'm going to bring that down. It's a -35. -35, and that's about easy listening level here. And on the readout for the RME, you can easily see, I can easily see, that there is in fact a treble emphasis here, and the treble frequencies are -20, -10 decibels. Bass is a little bit light. There's no sub bass here right now. And there we go. Now here's the sub bass. You could hear you can hear 20 hertz, 25, 30, 40 hertz. That's being emphasized, but it's not actually interacting with the mids or the treble. In fact, I would say the RH2 is a little bass. I wouldn't say it's bass light, but that sub bass rum is there more so on the RH than on the RH50. The RH50 is more lean than the RH2. The RH2 actually is a more fun sounding headphone for bass because that sub bass rumble is in fact more present than it is on the sister headphone, the RH50. The vocals are crystal clear, no harshness, no distortion. There's a hint of sibilance here that's below my personal sibilance threshold. Let's increase the volume. We're at -30 now. And -30, that sibilance starts popping up a little bit. So it's a bit of sparkle that's mixed into the song that is present on the headphones as well. It's not ear-piercing. It doesn't make me want to throw the headphones off my head, but for some people who are more sensitive to treble than me, to sibilance more than I am, this might be kind of a no-go for them. And here's the bass again. Yeah, I mean, it's just this boom, 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 boom. If you sit at home and you don't have a good, say, 5.1, 7.1 surround sound system, all you've got is your TV speakers. You'll never know, right? You'll never hear real bass. Once you upgrade to, say, a 2.1 system, we have two speakers and a subwoofer, or a 1.1 system, basically, a sound bar and a subwoofer, you get that bass rumble. And you suddenly realize that your music, your movies, your TV shows, whatever you've been watching has new life to it. It sounds more fun, more interactive. And that's what I'm trying to convey here. It's that type of difference between the RH2 and another headphone that's like super neutral. The RH2 is not, it's not neutral. That sub-bass rumble just comes out, go boom, 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 boom. But it's not the type that distorts. The distorted type of bass, sub-bass, is the type where, you know how some people trick out their cars and they put a giant subwoofer in their trunk and all you can hear is that god-awful rumbling of the subwoofer in somebody's trunk down the street. It's not even next door. It's down the other block. some headphones do that because they're awful. Beats, for example, they really do emphasize sub-bass and bass, and they will distort with a lot of tracks that are supposed to have a little bit of separation. The RH2 is not like that. What the RH2 does, it gives you that boom, 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 but it doesn't become bloated. It seems as if there's a hard separation between the sub-bass and the mids, right? So sub-bass is not bleeding into the mids. The sub-bass is not overpowering. It's not overemphasized compared to the mids. There is indeed a separation. Not so much a separation between the sub-bass and the mid-bass. I think those two meld, but that's where you get the fun sound effect. It sounds like, as some people might say, thick bass, but that thick bass doesn't make the other instruments in a song, doesn't make the vocalist sound drowned out, in a way of speaking. Let's go to Moons by MB. Okay, here we go. We are, what is our volume? -30. Okay, here we go. And okay, here we go. We're playing at HD, by the way, if you can see. And you're supposed to hear a boom any second now. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. And in this song, what happens with MB Moons is there's this low sub-bass rumble, and it's supposed to resonate, and it's supposed to meld with the next boom, 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 that sort of thing. There's not supposed to be a hard separation between each drum strike, right? So let me explain. So let's say you have a drummer, and he's going dun 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 dun, right? There's usually, the way some songs are mixed is there's usually a dun dun dun, meaning you hear one strike of the drum head, you hear another strike of the drum head, and if the drummer's playing really, really fast, then those strikes start melding together. MB's presentation for Moons is everything melts together. It's thick. One strike of the drum, boom, resonates, and then it goes on to the next one, boom, and then it goes on to the next one, boom. So it's constantly building on top of itself, sort of like a snowball effect, right? So that's the way that Moons is mastered, mixed, created. Let's keep playing. And you can hear boom, boom, boom. It's not distorting, but it's that thick bass head sort of effect. It's somewhat similar to the effect I got from the Monoprice Retro with the Brainwaves pad replacement, the angled pads. They come very close to the sound signature of what the RH2 provides out of the box on this song, right? It goes boom, 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 boom. So if you're a bass head, Moons is a song that you might enjoy because it's got that sub-bass rumble. And the RH2 takes that sub-bass rumble, adds just a little bit more to it. It adds a little kick to it, and it elevates it. For me, I'm not a huge fan of bloated bass. It's fun when it happens. And when I sit here and listen to it, I don't think that it's the type of bass that would give me a headache. If you listen to bassy songs for a long time, you get fatigued easily. Some people do, and I do for sure. This song, if I keep playing, it's not quite there. It's not fatiguing to listen to. And now that boom, 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 boom has stopped, and you can hear the guitar and the synth. You can hear that bass guitar, boom, 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 but it's in the background. It's like sandwiched in between that sub-bass resonance that's still kind of flowing through and the synth that's playing. The synth is on the top layer of this imaginary sandwich. So let's jump ahead. I think it's about 2 minutes in. Yeah. So around 2 minutes, 10 seconds, 2 minutes, 15 seconds, somewhere around there. The music stops for a heartbeat, and there are several drum strikes that come in. Dun, 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 dun. I'll tell you exactly when. Maybe it's 2:30. It's been a while. And right about now, yeah. So everything's silent. And now. Or now. When is this? Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. It's been such a long time since I've done this. Let's go back, 235. So I guess there's a silence between 235 and 240, and at 240, that's when the dun 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 comes in. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Right there. So you hear this, tin, 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 tin. You can hear the hi-hat or the cymbal being hit, tin, 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 and then boom, 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 boom. And you can feel that sub-bass thump. And on the RME, I can see that we've got 20, 25 represented all the way to negative 30 decibels, and then we've got 40, 50 represented all the way to negative 10 decibels. And from there on out, everything above 70 hertz or so is below negative 30 hertz. But I can still hear it. See, I can hear the synth. I can hear when the drum strike hits and it boom, and it doesn't strike again. I can hear the bass guitar sandwiched really, really deep. The separation again is not the best in the world. Nowhere close to be the best in the world. But the separation of the bass from the other frequencies, that's very good, I think. If you're looking for a bassy headphone, but still want the character of other instruments to come through, then the RH2, I think, really does provide that, and it gives you this fun sound signature. And with Emby, Moons, which is a bassy song, like a true bassy song, you can feel and hear that rumble without it distorting, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about conclusions real quick. When I unboxed the RH2, I don't know how long ago, it's been probably over 7 weeks, I said that the RH2 is a fun-sounding headphone, and that is really the case, I think. It's not a headphone that people really should be mixing and mastering with unless that's the sound signature you're going for. You want that extra bass oomph, and you want to know when exactly it is that you reach it. The RH2 will probably give you that. I think it's less bass emphasis than a Beats headphone. And I've got 2 Beats that I keep around for, I was going to say fun, but that's not the right word. I keep those around not for nostalgia, not for fun. Why do I don't know why I keep them around. I have 2. I have the original Dr. Dre, Beats by Dr. Dre, right? The original ones, the pros. And then I've got the Beats Solo, I think. I don't know what the hell it is. I can tell you now that I've listened to those 2 headphones once each in the last couple of months. I don't listen to them very often, and the reason I don't listen to them very often is because of that bass, brum, 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 right? It's always in your face. And the RH2 is not that. It brings that bass up. It kicks it up by a good, let's say, 5 or 6 decibels compared to a neutral headphone, right? It brings that sub-bass rumble up. And when you're facing songs or using songs that have some bass built in, what you want to ask, the question you want to ask is, does that bass get distorted? Does it become uncomfortable to listen to? Does it become fatiguing? And that's why we did these 3 songs. And the answer to that question is no, I don't think that it becomes fatiguing. And I don't think that it becomes distorted. Now, this isn't accurate bass response by any measure, right? You're not going to sit there, put these on, and say, oh my goodness, I didn't hear this song so cleanly before. These are not clean bass sounding headphones. As I've said repeatedly, the separation between the sub bass and the mid bass is not quite present. It melds way too much, and I think the sub bass has more emphasis than the mid bass does. That being said, the bass frequency altogether is well separated from the mids. The mids do, in fact, sound clear and undistorted. The treble seems to be a little bit accentuated. Now, one of the songs that we listened to didn't have that treble emphasis. Post Malone, for example. I was looking at the RME and the readout, and I noticed, like, okay, so the treble emphasis is actually less than the other frequencies mixed into the song. So it makes sense why these headphones sound a little rolled off on some occasions. And then there are other occasions in that song where it gets that treble emphasis mixed in, and the headphones display it, and it becomes a little bit too much for some people. It was just underneath my personal threshold. And so what I would think is that the RH2 has a V-shaped representation. You've got the kick and the sub bass, and you've got a little bit of emphasis on the treble. And I think the treble emphasis is less than the emphasis for the bass. So if you want to listen to hip-hop songs and you love hip-hop, I think the RH2 might be a sweet spot for price, number one, comfort, number two, because Beats headphones are damn uncomfortable, and number three, you still get that fun sort of sound signature. But you can use these headphones for other genres. I mean, classical, you'll get muddy sound signature for classical because of the bass, but it'll be fun to listen to. Orchestral pieces, for example, like Interstellar soundtrack, Mountains that we played, it sounds kind of fun. It sounds like you're sitting in a theater and you've got that THX surround sound sort of thing going on with all that rumbling effect. And so you get that rumble effect. You don't get this effect that the music is surrounding you. It's a true stereo left-right effect. So it's directly into your ears. But you get that rumble that's still well controlled, isn't bloated, and isn't distracting from the other instruments that are present in a mix. Hopefully this has been of some help. The RH2, I think, is a decent headphone. It's a really decent, fun headphone, especially for the price. If Rane was selling this for $100, I would be pretty hesitant to recommend it for $100. I think it's $40 or $50. I'll have to double check. And if you're looking for something that has that bass reproduction with a little bit more emphasis, but it doesn't get bloated and it doesn't become too heavy sounding, then I think the RH2 might be your thing, maybe. The next tests we're going to do are going to be for the mids and the treble, and then we'll be able to talk about soundstage. Now, I've listened to the RH2 for a while, and I can say that I feel confident saying that the soundstage is average on the RH2. And I think that goes well in hand with the V-shaped sound signature that I'm familiar with the RH2. If it was wider soundstage, then I think that you would lose a bit of that bass emphasis that the RH2 does have. So I think there is a sweet spot here that the RH2 has been able to kind of accomplish. But we'll find out, and we'll keep testing when we get to the mids and we listen to vocal-centric songs. Again, I hope this has been of some help. I hope all of you are staying healthy and staying indoors until everybody can be back in public and into society again because of COVID-19. And if any of you have been sick or if you've had family that's been sick, I hope that you get better very, very soon. I hope your family members get better very soon. And I hope all of us can continue to struggle through this together and support each other. And we will all be happy, I'm sure, as soon as the quarantine is lifted. I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for subscribing and for participating. Take care.